Greetings, allies! Welcome back! Larry, Jim. Today, we are going to be talking about something that's very, very special to us. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Now, it's a very, very interesting topic, because it's something that I just recently found out about that you brought to my attention. When I was growing up as a young lad, as you all knew, He-Man came with a comic book inside. Now, for an example of this, they just recently released this by Dark Horse a few years ago. 3-4 years ago, maybe? Something like that. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe mini-comic collection. Now, as you can see, the artwork is a hell of a lot bigger, and the words are a hell of a lot bigger, and you're not like 5 or 6 trying to decipher what they're saying. Yeah. And this really weird, odd 4-color print, because the pages weren't exactly that special. And what I really like about this one is it collects everything from the old comics to the new comics. But it's about the old comics that we need to bring up, because an old comic became new again.
So to speak.
You have issues that aren't in here.
No. So here's the story. Like you said, Larry, these, hold these up. Here's 2 examples of original comics. These were ones that actually came with action figures that I still own. These would have been packaged. I don't recall who these individual ones were packaged with. It doesn't really matter.
What's the name of the stories?
Let's see. We've got The Secret Liquid of Life.
Okay, The Secret Liquid of Life. All right, and
we have Temple of Darkness.
Temple of Darkness.
So those are the 2 comics that I have here. Larry's going to reference them in the book.
Yep, they're both in here.
Does this actually say what figures they came with?
No, it just tells who wrote it and who inked it.
Okay, well, there you go. So there's the story. There's 2 original ones. And then what would happen on the back is there would be what is termed a cross-sell, where it would show, much like on the back of the box, what other action figures were available. And the concept was, with these things, was to introduce...
Flip that one up.
Ta-da! There you go.
There's the first one.
And what this did was it enabled children... It basically introduced what we term play pattern to kids, is what it was for.
Oh, yeah, it was to show you how to play with your toys.
Yeah, so that's what these were for. Well, several months ago, I was at a little place called RetroCon, okay? And while I was there, I was passing by a booth, and the guy I saw MiniComics, and some of my MiniComics I still have, some I don't. And so I stopped to check them out, and as I'm looking at them, I have never seen these before. And I'm thinking, what in the world? And they're in great shape, and they've got the cross-sell in the back, and they look extremely, extremely real. But what I came to find out is these were not produced in the 80s. These are relatively new. They've been produced in the last few years by a gentleman named Rob Hexavo.
Man.
Yes, in conjunction with sometimes other people. But he's producing his own line of these mini-comics. In this particular one that I'm holding up, it's called Scum from the Slime Pit, a new member of the Evil Horde is introduced, a figure that never existed, known as Scumbug, I believe they call him. Yes, and if you look at the character, and I'll get a close-up of this for editing purposes, but you'll notice you can actually even tell this guy thought long and hard about this, because he figured out how to do the figure, and you can see what pieces he reused or whatever to make this figure happen. So it's actually really, really cool, and they are very basic stories, and they go through, and it tells, much like they did, way back when. And I bought a number of these. And what was kind of interesting is, sometimes they fill in certain little blanks in your collection. Like, here is Tongue Lasher, for instance. This is an original figure from my collection at home. And Tongue Lasher was one of the Snake Men, and when you got the Snake Men, they came with one comic. That was all it was. It was all three of them came with the same one. Well, here is one that Rob has produced that is Serpent in the Swamp that highlights Tongue Lasher. So I thought after looking at these, like in this case, if you were trying to display a figure, that didn't have their own comic they were featured in, but they had one that Rob has featured them in, you could kind of get that and display it together. And again, the cross sell was on the back, just like it was with the toys.
And that's what makes it really interesting is because everybody got the King Hisson issue.
Because that was the only one. When
you
bought those three, that's what came with it.
And as soon as I saw that, it's like that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I just looked at Faker, and there wasn't a comic book released for Faker.
No. So it's really 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 cool, and they've done some things that there's definitely Easter eggs in here if you look.
Yes.
For instance, the color of the battle cap that Faker is riding is not the right colors. But if I remember correctly, there was a version painted like this for whatever reason, whether it was in testing or something like that.
If not, somebody in the comments will let us know.
Sure, will let us know. But there, there's little stuff like that. These were fantastic. I really, really dug these. And the other thing that's kind of cool, when I was there's one that's listed here.
Yes.
Yeah. There's one that's listed here as a RetroCon exclusive. Now, for those of you not familiar with RetroCon, RetroCon's been going on for some years now. It's held once a year outside of Philadelphia at the Greater Philadelphia Convention Center. It's a great little convention. Shout out to those folks. They do a great job every year. I love that convention. If you get a chance and you happen to be in the area, check it out. But this year this guy had this exclusive, this dealer, and what it is it's the mini comic for The Secret of the Sword. Now, I don't know if you remember The Secret of the Sword. It was the movie where they introduced She-Ra.
Yes.
Well, what's interesting about this is they basically created a mini comic here for this, and what is fascinating about this, and I want to put this out there, is this reminds me, and I do not know, and I can't say for sure, but this reminds me of when you went to the theater, when Secret of the Sword was released in the theater, if you were fortunate to be one of the first people to go, there was a larger comic that was issued. And this is very reminiscent of that. I don't know if they took that and copied that. I don't, put it down in a mini comic size. I have no idea what they did. I can't say for sure. I did get that comic as a kid. I've long since lost it, so I can't compare it to tell you. Now, the reason I bring this up, and this one in particular, is because recently Super 7 released a She-Ra, and I apologize. In our prop box, I have lost her sword.
Box?
Okay, my prop box.
There you go.
I have lost her sword. It's somewhere in the box, but it doesn't really matter. If you get this and you're a guy who takes things off the card the way I am, you'll notice that the Super 7 is releasing them with what looks like a mini comic when it's in the package, but it's not a mini comic. It's actually a little card, a little art card that talks about going from the figure to cartoon and how they did that and that sort of thing. Which, it's nice. I'm not making light of it. Super 7, good job. Shout out to you. But it's not a mini comic, and I think if you were gonna, one of the things I plan to do is when I actually put this on display. Now I have a proper mini comic to go with her. So there you go. So I think this is pretty cool. And I do think it's really neat that they've released a She-Ra that's actually in proper scale now with the rest of the Masters of the Universe. Seeing as how the Princess of Power.
Yeah.
But if you bring one of them down, you can see that
I'm actually afraid. Well, there you go. There's a better
is.
representation.
Yeah, so-
I'm afraid to pull any of those down right now because they're my old childhood ones, and I'm deathly afraid to move them at this point.
They are, I will tell you, the Super 7 ones that they've released, they are in identical scale to the old figures. She is the same size as Tila and Evelyn. She even has that weird... Let me take the shield off. She even has that weird little, oh, kiss my hand thing going on for the pose.
What was going on there?
I don't know. I've never quite figured out that particular pose. It's the weirdest thing, but...
I always liked how these had a gimmick, or each one of these figures had a gimmick that made it stand out.
Yeah. Now,
something as simple as a wheel on his back so his tongue could stick out.
But in any case, that's the story. Now these.
That's the story.
Yeah,
I like that.
I looked all over for a website for Rob Hexavo, and I could not find much of anything. And if I'm mispronouncing the name, I apologize. I found a few of these for sale on eBay. So, by all means, look and see if you can find them. But unfortunately, outside of that, I am not aware of any way to get these things. I do not know the dealer that I saw at RetroCon. If anybody happens to know who that was or anything else, please let me know in the comments section. I would love to see if there are more of these. But yeah, shout out to Rob, because he's done a wonderful job by
What?
I don't even know what to say to you right now.
What?
I mean,
he's humbling him.
But why would he do that? He's a heel.
He is Well, he's a heel too.
That's what I'm saying. Wouldn't they be working together?
Well, I don't have them anybody. Well, he might be the humbler, but he doesn't humble women. That's mean.
Well, she'd humble him.
Oh, that's all right. I think I've solved this problem.
Oh. How so? Oh.
All right. There we go.
So we can humble Hogan.
Just do that. There you go.
We're gonna.
Let me tell you something, brother.
He's been poisoned. Oh! Hang on.
There you go.
Now we know. Wait a minute.
Yes.
We figured it out. Now we know why the hand is like this. 1, 2, 3. Hogan is pinned, and Tongue Lasher becomes the champion of the world.
And we just performed an AEW match with action figures.
Absolutely.
All
Why not?
right, I'm gonna get killed.
Well, I think on that note we should close the show.
There really isn't anywhere else we can go.
There isn't.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming around and checking us out, and we'll catch you later, Ally.
Make sure to like, subscribe, share us, and we'll see you next time.